Hello all. As you are aware, or some of you will be, I put out an article yesterday in which I compared what is happening with the puberty blockers for children and this dreadful trial to the theatre of the absurd, to a situation in which people are caught. What I've got for you today is a video of Dr. Siminoff talking to Radio 4, and I thought we'd take a moment to take a look at it and see what we can see. It is absolutely vital that we grasp how serious this is, and I know that many of you do. Unfortunately, our MPs, including West Streeting and certainly Keir Starmer and his cronies, do not seem to understand the unbelievable and devastating thing they are about to do. Let's begin by watching Dr. Siminoff, who is involved in the trial, and then I'll comment when I feel it's necessary. I hope that you'll take the time to respond to me on this and perhaps let me know what you think, and perhaps share this so that others can join in the conversation as well. Let's take a look at what Dr. Siminoff's got to say.
Looking at young people's psychological state, emotional well-being, physical health.
Right, okay, so first thing that I want to kick off with there is what we need to understand is the vocabulary of what we are seeing. There is a vocabulary that comes with this, what is known as an argot, which is the language of a particular group of people. One of the words she used there is well-being. That is a red flag the size of Montana. Let's keep going.
And quality of life, as well as any possible adverse effects here. So
in other words, the well-being comes before the adverse effects. Not are we causing adverse effects that might affect well-being, but the well-being comes before the adverse effects.
Doing that in a very structured and standard way, and that's also been advised by people with lived experience.
People with lived experience. People with lived experience is the argot, the language of EDI and DEI. It is designed to create a situation whereby the supremacy of the individual's lived experience uproots and takes the place of not just science, but ethics and morality. Let's continue.
Both people who have trans experience and also parents and caregivers who...
People who have trans experience, there's no such thing as trans experience. It is all a lie. It is a fantasy predicated on a nonsense and inculcated by mentally ill people and fetishistic men. There is no such thing as trans. You do trans. You aren't trans. It's a performative thing like queer. You do queer. You aren't queer. This person should know that. This person should understand the machinations of the philosophical game she is playing, and she should understand the machinations of the particular industry she finds herself embroiled in. Though I doubt it's even entered her head, the smartest of us are often the easiest ones to fall to what I call the utopian ideological ecosystem. And the utopian ideological ecosystem that this individual has fallen for is driven by the policies, procedures, and machinations of EDI and DEI, inclusivity, everything else that comes with it, which infects the NHS. And she's infected to such a state that she can't see outside of it and ask herself the question, should we be doing this? Should this be happening at all? Is there any truth to the idea of gender identity? Is there any truth to the idea of doing trans or being trans? It's utter nonsense. This is all predicated on lies from beginning to end.
Come from a diversity of experience.
A diversity of experience. If you can't see this, I don't know how to help you. What exactly is the diversity of experience that makes you somebody who's going to rock up and say, oh yeah, let's experiment on my child? That they will. You don't think it can have anything to do with homophobia, perhaps? Or the fact they don't want a butch girl or a feminine boy? This is absolutely insane. Insane.
Experiences of gender diversity.
So this is now based on gender diversity. Lived experience, well-being, gender diversity. Do you get it?
or gender incongruence. So it's a wide range of measures that will be very carefully monitored. The really important
That will be very carefully monitored. That will be very carefully monitored. So we are going to do harm, but we're going to monitor it.
important thing to understand here is that we're not expecting a one-size-fits-all finding necessarily. We're looking very much at the balance between possible benefits for mental health and quality of life.
There are no possible benefits for mental health and quality of life that involve experimentation on children or pumping them full of the same drug they used to castrate Alan Turing.
And any possible risks or harms,
any possible risks or harms. We know what the possible risks or harms are because you're living a fantasy woman and you are predicating your entire nonsense on a woman along with your cronies. You're on this fantasy, not on a woman, on this fantasy. You're predicating it on this fantasy. This absolute fantasy of trans, this absolute fantasy of gender identity. You are chasing ghosts and you're doing it with the actual bodies of children, many of whom will be gay and a proportion of which will be autistic.
Might be to physical health, and also one of the really important things we're doing is looking at whether there are any possible risks to brain development.
So we're going to do the experiment and then we'll see if there's any risks. This is absolutely ghoulish. This is ghoulish on a level I can't understand. And the only reason that she can sit there and say this and come across as sincere is because she lives in a utopian ideological ecosystem. A utopian ideological ecosystem that was caused by EDI and DEI, that was caused by the hashtag Be Kind, accept everyone, inclusivity, equity. This is the banality of evil in my mind. The banality of evil.
By doing the first ever study looking at cognitive development, that's thinking, learning, and memory, and at the same time scanning brains of young people who are getting puberty suppressing hormones and those who are not. That's the first time that's ever been done.
It's the first time that they've ever given young people a drug in the possibility that they can then scan the brain for damage. Gay and lesbian, autistic, looked after kids. Ones with hellish home backgrounds, homophobic parents. And the worst thing about it is she seems glad that she can do this. That's what it seems to me. Make no bones about it. What we are seeing is one of the most egregious and disgusting medical experiments with the full backing of lunatics who run our country, of lunatics who have ruined the NHS. And it is being supported by the idiots that don't recognise that this is much bigger than what they're going to do to the children. That the mindset that allows her to justify to herself the giving of drugs to children and the subsequent scanning of their brains is an entire policy, an entire way of thinking, an entire organizational culture predicated on EDI and DEI, inclusivity, diversity, lived experience, own truth, you name it, it's there. You go do your own thinking. Share this if you can.